Ooh, welcome in the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Bratton. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter, and I'm joined as always by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Balls on Twitter. What are you up to, you big Tennessee homer?
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Oh, man, we are just days away, Shane, from the greatest week of football action on the football calendar, in my opinion. I'm doing great. Watching all these Lane Kiffin rumors.
Yeah.
How you doing, buddy?
Oh, boy, it was tweeting up a storm last night, weren't they? I mean, I thought we were going to have it, and I don't want to give this guy any props because he fooled the whole world there for a second, but came out with a tweet letting us know that it's done. Lane Kiffin's out. Come Friday, he's stepping down after the game, and he's heading down to Auburn. And, of course, Lane Kiffin drug his ass through the mud. But I do got to ask you, Mike, because usually when there's smoke, there's fire. Mm-hmm. We've been talking about Lane and Auburn for many, many weeks now.
Yeah.
Do you think Auburn's still on? Do you think they're on the books here, or do you think this is a good shot for Lane? Because that's the argument you keep hearing is whenever there is this noise, Lane Kiffin can end it all by coming out and saying, "Hey, I'm sticking around. I'm coming back next season." But he's not doing that. It's almost like he's waiting for an opportunity, and that may not be Auburn. But I'm just curious your thoughts. If you were you're a gambling man, just like me. If you were to put out of $100, how much of it would you put on Lane Kiffin being at Auburn next year?
I'd probably put it, Shane, if I'm being 100% honest, $75 on him being at Auburn. So I didn't say 100. I did say 99. Yeah. I mean, I still think there's a shot he stays at Ole Miss, but I think he just said the key thing, Shane, and something everybody is basically saying. You know, he's been asked this question basically every opportunity the last month, and not one time has he said, "I'm not going. I'll be at Ole Miss.
Right.
I'm staying at Ole Miss." Now, you can read into that many different ways, Shane. I mean, he's been very adamant. He wants NIL support. Mm-hmm. He wants fan support. Hell,
facilities.
We're about to play a clip here. He's complaining that, hey, we've won 2 Egg Bowls in a row. Maybe if we win a third, they'll fix the leaks in the damn ceiling. I mean, every opportunity he's basically calling out to Ole Miss to not necessarily make a commitment to him, but make the commitments necessary for the Rebels to be perennial SEC contenders. And I don't know, Shane. I mean, I think the longer this goes on, the more it hurts Ole Miss and their recruiting and their current team going into this big rivalry game. There's basically no reason to let this drag on unless he is seriously contemplating leaving. And I've talked to many people, Shane. I've not heard one legitimate say, deal's done, he's leaving. Now, he very well may, but I do think any report saying that he's gone is premature at this point in time. And we're seeing reports of that nature. We're seeing reports that he's staying at Ole Miss. You can't trust anything on social media. I'm just saying.
There's a lot of $8 reporters out there, and I'm one of them, Mike. You know what I'm saying? I was like, oh, I see a check mark, and I'm like, oh, he's got 200 followers. You know, so maybe he's not a notable character here. But it's easy to get sucked in. One of the ones I saw was a Snapchat from it was a picture of a Snapchat from a player that apparently Kiffin came in and said he's coming back, and they're like, let's effing go, you know. So it's but it's like got 14 retweets, so I don't know like how credible that source is, but it is just the season, Mike. We're waiting for Kiffin to do something, because I think and whether it be just a double down commitment to Ole Miss, or whether it be, hey, I am going somewhere else, you know, something. So there's going to be some magical news coming out of Oxford, and I think it's going to come after this game.
Right. Yeah. So, hey, we'll know in just a couple days' time, Shane, and we were discussing it We got Thanksgiving coming up, of course. We are not planning on recording on Thursday. Give us a little bit of break, spend time with our families, eat some good food, drink some good beer. So we probably are not going to have a show on Friday.
Yeah.
But I promise you, if Lane Kiffin makes a decision, I'll be doing an emergency podcast. We'll get something out there. So just a little note for the audience. Thursday's show is going to be our pick show, and that'll be it till an emergency is necessary. So keep that in your back pocket, Shane. But we got a lot to cover aside from Lane Kiffin here. We got a game, don't forget. Big time game down there at the Egg Bowl. Before we get rolling, Shane, a couple questions I've been kind of thinking I'd love to chat with you here. Going into this epic weekend here, the final weekend of the regular season, we got 3 teams, Shane, all 3 playing conference matchups, playing rivalry matchups that are fighting for their bowl lives. And, of course, I'm talking about Missouri. You're hosting Arkansas. Auburn playing at Alabama. And Vanderbilt hosting Tennessee. So all 3 of those, Shane, they must get a win to reach the postseason. Which one, again, Missouri, Auburn, or Vanderbilt, which one do you think a bowl trip would mean more for, however you want to shape it, the coach? But really what I'm thinking is the future of the program, the continued development. Which one do you think a postseason berth would mean the most for?
Oh man, Mike, that is a tough question. I hate to take the cheap answer here, but there's a few. I think emotionally, I think Auburn needs it. You know what I'm saying? For everything they've gone through, the start of the season, out of bowl race, the whole 9 yards. I just think there's something magical. And not to mention what it takes to get there is beat Alabama in the Iron Bowl. So it's probably one of the toughest feats to do. Yeah. But if that were to happen, I think that would be monumental. Everybody would be talking about the 4 weeks we had with Cadillac, So I think that's big. But brother, I think it's bigger. I think it's bigger for Missouri. And let me go with here, because when I think of bowl, the first thing I think of is a continuation of the season, which also means continuation of practice. And there is a lot of young, raw talent up there in Mizzou. And I'm not saying anything about Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, they're a developmental school. They've been great. And I wouldn't even rule out some of these teams still getting a bowl bid with 5 wins. But Missouri in particular has stood out to me because of the way they have developed they've gotten better throughout the season here, and a lot of that's because they have young talent. And so I think those extra practices could really come in handy for Coach Eli and the boys there. So if I'm leaning out of the 3 schools here, even though I kind of hit on all of them, I'm going to say give me MIZ, because I think the practices would be monumental for that crew.
Now, that's not a bad answer, Shane. I mean, I certainly could make the case for Missouri just like you did, but I'm going to go a different direction, Shane. I'm going to say Vanderbilt for me. Clark Lee, just a total disaster he took over there at Vanderbilt. I think this would be just a sign to everybody. They already did well in recruiting last cycle. I think they'll continue to do well, but I think something you hit on there, developmental. There's no bigger developmental program than Vanderbilt, because they're simply at a different level when it comes to recruiting because of the academic requirements, all that. But I think Vanderbilt would be able to sell just the vision, the future of the program. They got a lot of young talent, obviously, as well, that really needs these extra reps. And even if they lost their bowl game by 100 points, Shade, that is something that I don't think they would take for granted. A bowl trip is, remember, the season started in Hawaii, and the jokes, I mean, everybody was making it. This is their bowl trip. Well, flash forward 3 months, they may punch their bowl ticket for real. So I think Vanderbilt, and also, Shay, we got to consider that, the transfer portal window's coming up here pretty quick. Vanderbilt's got a lot of good players, and I hear it all across the SEC. Oh, I can't wait for this guy to get in the portal. I can't wait for that guy to get in the portal. I think if you punch your ticket to the postseason, keeps a lot of those guys more locked in and committed to what Clark Lee is building. And it's not just Vanderbilt. I mean, hell, it's going to be every team in the SEC. Shane's going to have guys jumping into the portal. So I just think it'll mean so much to Vanderbilt. I think it means more to them. But certainly Missouri and Auburn would be great for those programs too. I think like you, I would put Auburn last though, just because they're getting a new coach.
Yeah.
And I anticipate that roster to be near unrecognizable next season with the players going to the NFL, with potential transfers from the portal and everything like that, particularly if it's the portal king Lane Kiffin down there. You know he's going to do a 180 on that roster. So
it too, the pridefulness of an SEC win in a bowl match, because there's a lot of teams that just kind of eke into these things, and some of the players are opting out. I think we'd get a loaded roster from both of these two programs, and the way Missouri's playing of late, and nothing against Vanderbilt, because again they knocked off Kentucky, they knocked off Florida, but I just think Missouri catching another 6-win team out of the ACC or something like that, could be an absolute bloodbath. So that's what I want to see. And again, just the youthfulness of that program really get full display, because I think that's what Eli would do, is kind of shift this a little bit away from, nothing against Cook or anything like that, but maybe a little shift away so we can see a little glimpse of what Missouri is going to be working with next year.
Now, on the flip side, Shane, we got a number of teams going into a rivalry game, even though Arkansas don't call it a rivalry. But they're going into these matchups, Shane, where I think if they lose the game, I think these coaches are going to face a ton of heat. I don't care what they do in the postseason. This is going to be, 9 months of fans being pissed off. So let me ask you, which one needs a win the most? And I got 5 here for you. Sam Pittman over Missouri. I don't know if you caught it, Shane. Steven and I were going back and forth on the last episode on how Arkansas people don't consider this a rivalry. And I even said it on the show, Shane. I said, watch, Steven. This is a test right here. I'm going to put out a clip of Eli Drinkwitz on Tuesday talking about this rivalry, and we'll have dozens of Arkansas people screaming that this ain't a rivalry. And guess what? It's like I played them like a damn mariachi. It's exactly what they are doing. So you can't tell me this is not a rivalry, because, hell, I tweet about Mizzou all the time. I don't see Tennessee people. I don't see Florida people. I don't see Kentucky people complaining and talking. It's just Arkansas. So, hey, Sam Pittman says it's a rivalry. Drink says it's a rivalry. Their actions say it's a rivalry. They're going to be mad as hell if Arkansas loses to Missouri, something that they do far too often up there in Columbia, if you were to ask those fan bases. So, you can make the case Sam Pittman season has not gone as expected. This would be the final kind of slap in the face there. Josh Heupel, Tennessee, also on this list, Shane. I mean, all the goodwill. I don't want to say all the goodwill, because, hell, he beat Alabama, beat Florida. Legitimately Coach of the Year candidate, I think, until last week. But if he drops 2 in a row, particularly to South Carolina and Vanderbilt, 2 programs that Tennessee always, I don't care if South Carolina and Vanderbilt win 10 out of 10, Tennessee's still going to think they're above those programs. You cannot lose to these teams. That's the mindset if you're a Tennessee fan. I mean, Butch Jones 2.0, I'm clearly, they're not, they're very different coaches, but you're going to hear that all off season long. A lot of pressure on Heupel to get this one. Potentially an Orange Bowl on the line here. How about Mike Leach, Shane? Mississippi State 0-2 in the Egg Bowl under Coach Leach. There's speculation he may not be around. He loses this game, that may be done for him. You know what I mean? So he's probably the only one on this. He is the only one on this list that, there's a little bit of a hot seat. I would hate to see Coach Leach go, but, we got to consider that one. Billy Napier, Shane, just lost a horrific game against Vanderbilt. You make fans forget about that in a hurry if you beat Florida State in Tallahassee. A lot of pressure there. I mean, they're not writing him off by any means. It's year one, but man, he's gonna lose some fans, I think, if they lose to Vanderbilt and Florida State to end the season. And then last, Shane, again, I'm not sitting here saying hot seat. He just got a contract extension 2 weeks ago. But Mark Stoops, Kentucky, they've owned Louisville the last couple of years. You got this amazing quarterback, the best quarterback you've ever had. You got the best running back you ever had. You got a quality defense. Yet if you lose to Louisville, who may be down their starting quarterback, to a coach that legitimately looked like he was going to get fired about a month ago.
Yeah.
This is going to be one of the biggest black eyes. And this is what you don't want if you're Kentucky. You don't want this rivalry to flip on you like you flipped it on Louisville a couple years ago. So, said a lot there, Shane. Which coach, which program most needs a win this weekend?
Every single one of them. Oh, Mike. Look, because you kind of floated this thing out to me before the show, and I was giving it some thought, and I had my mind made up. But as you're going through this list, man, I'm with you. I think the Pirate needs this one, as an example. I wasn't necessarily thinking that this was a make or break, but, the more you talk about it, then maybe it is. Maybe it is a little bit of a hot seat take there, which makes this game even more intriguing. But, I mean, Vanderbilt, you can't lose to Vanderbilt. That's a given. It's because that's all people are talking about with Billy and the other two coaches, Mark.
Yeah.
Oh, brother, I think if you're thinking must win, I'm gonna go Stoops in Kentucky. And the reason I'm doing that is this is a disdained rivalry, which they all are. I mean, don't get me wrong. We're that's all we're going to talk about. We talk about Thanksgiving. We love our families, but we hate these teams we're facing this week.
Yeah.
That's the beautiful part about it. But losing to Louisville, going out on a 3-game losing streak when you had all this momentum coming into the season and an NFL quarterback, and it's just we were promised a lot of good things out of Lexington, and to close out with that performance, which does include a loss to Vanderbilt. Yeah, I think that would be tough. That would be very, very tough pill to swallow for these guys, because it is a winnable game. Because you can make the argument Florida State is favored. Ole Miss is favored. So, some of these games you really are going to have to pull off a quote-unquote upset. Mm-hmm. But, Kentucky, you're not an underdog here, man. What's the spread on this? I don't want to misquote. I don't think they're an underdog.
Kentucky's favored by 3 is what I have it.
Yeah, but it might as well be 30. And so that's the one I'm going with right now, just because I don't think Mark can I don't think – I'm not panicking. He's not getting fired after this. But there is going to be a lot of question marks. And you want to talk about hot seat coming into a season? I truly think closing out 3 losses, barely making a bowl game, Lord knows how that's going to play out, and then going into the next season with hot seat talk. So, yeah, give me Mark in Kentucky.
Can we make a promise to the audience now, Shane? You and I will not lock up any of these matchups right here, because we don't want to jinx anybody.
It's funny, because I didn't know how this show was going to go. And so I didn't know if I needed to get my picks ready for the Thursday game and the 2 Friday games. So I went ahead and did it, man. I'm 2 games in, and I've already got 2 Morristown Honda picks. So there's zero confidence coming in this weekend, which is going to make for awesome football. And it's it, man. It's the end of the regular season. We talked about enjoying it. It's here. It's upon us. So, yeah, I'm just glad we still got football content to talk about.
Well, speaking of that, of course, we got the Egg Bowl on Thursday. Let's discuss that here, Shane. And the backdrop of Lane Kiffin and all the rumors, that is just, I mean, you just can't get around it. But I just thought this was fascinating, Shane. 2 things here. Let's kick it over to Lane Kiffin, who he's talking about how they're undefeated in the Egg Bowl, yet maybe they need to win again to fix the damn leaks in the ceiling, which I thought was kind of a damning comment. And then even worse, Shane, he's asked, well, all this, is this a distraction? He said, well, I've left a number of places and we won the last game. It's like,
yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, am I hearing things? It almost sounds like he's saying, we'll win this game because I'm leaving on Saturday.
I always win on my last game here, and just forewarning you, they need to fix the media room here because it sounded like this thing was recorded in an emergency room. So
next to a smoke detector.
Now that I've said that, you won't be able to unhear it.
Lane, this is your third Egg Bowl. I know you've coached in a lot of different rivalry games in different places. What stands out about this rivalry specifically to you?
I don't know. I mean, it's, seems like there's not a lot of love in the relationship, I guess. It's a positive way, a nice way of putting it. But, it means a lot to a lot of people. And, been fortunate to turn it back our direction the last couple of years and trying to keep it that way.
Kind of in that same vein, you talked about it some even in Atlanta, just how you've been here, you've seen what it means to Mississippians, this game, and the being able to go 3-0. What do you think that means for this program and for you kind of recruiting in this state moving forward?
Maybe we'll have enough money to have a facility that doesn't leak water on us if we win the third one. So, I mean, it would be great. I think in general, as you look at the 3 years, I think we've come a long ways with the program. On-field success of whatever, 18 wins the last 2 years and chance for a 19th. I think that we've turned over the roster, improved the roster, obviously improved on-field production, and made the program a lot more visibly nationally to recruit to than where it was when we got here. So this would be another good notch in there to help that with the national audience on a Thursday night.
You sound like your guys are very confident and good at backing out of that kind of outside noise, and you seem confident in them. But you not having conversations with them, is there any part of your mind that thinks that might be concerning because it might turn into a distraction on a rivalry week if they see it all the time?
Yeah, I mean, I think about that. I've asked our coaches, do you think that is an issue? They've said no. Like analytics, we study the past. I mean, we played in the last game at FAU to conference championship, and that morning ESPN leaked that we were the head coach at Ole Miss, and the entire team knew, and went out and won by 40. So, and these same, questions were there the same week that we were one play away from beating Alabama. So, not much analytics to show that would matter about player performance.
All right, Shay. So, can you believe he said this? I mean, he's mocking what he don't got in Ole Miss, and then, I mean, I don't know what he's supposed to say, but maybe this is just Lane being Lane. He's just joking around, but.
Mike, this is the double down. This is the double down effect, and he's not coming out and saying he's staying at Ole Miss, which leads me to believe he's not. And I'm not saying Auburn's it, but it's definitely a strong candidate. I think that's the situation we're in, Mike, is, hey, I'm going to Auburn unless this opens up. And when I say this, I'm talking to you, College Station. If that opens up, I think he's heading down to Texas. So I think that's the kind of scenario we're in here. But I truly, and I hate to say it, Rebs, I mean, I've got the baby blue shirt on today, Mike. I'm trying to give them all the props I can, because I've been there. I've been on the receiving end of a Lane Kiffin departure, and it's not fun. But I'm just bracing yourselves because I think it's coming. I think it's coming because Kiffin is, for him to come out and say he's not leaving would make him look more like an asshole if he does. And that's what I think he's trying to avoid, sneaking out in the middle of the night with his dad. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't want to do it. He's trying to do it the right way, the cordial way. I'm gonna finish out this season. We're gonna finish with a victory at the Egg Bowl, but I'm out. So that's kind of the way I'm feeling this thing playing out, Mike.
And if you're a Mississippi State supporter, Shane, how great is it that you got all this drama coming in? Because I think
Yes.
if it's just, none of this, I think Ole Miss is a much better team this season, at least a more consistent team. They're getting the home field advantage, big rivalry matchup. I would pick Ole Miss probably 8 out of 10 if they just met in Oxford normally.
Mm-hmm.
But all this smoke, the motivation of having lost 2 Egg Bowls in a row, I think that's a big assist to Mississippi State. Yeah. Do you agree?
I do, but it wouldn't surprise me if Lane Kiffin didn't tell his players that he was sticking around. It's one thing to lie to them, and I know that sounds mean, but I've heard a couple of little stories, and he's not come out publicly saying it, but apparently he's saying it behind closed doors with these, impressionable teenagers, which is what they are, and but they're buying in, and that's kind of. So I don't know if it's as much noise as we're making it out to be, because you got to remember, brother. I did a little counting earlier. Between both of these schools, there are 90 kids that are from the state of Mississippi. So to say that this rivalry comes down to 2 coaches is asinine, man.
Yeah.
This is bigger. This is bigger than them. So I think both teams will be dialed in. This will be a heated rivalry again, and it will be a fun, entertaining game. These kids are going against some other kids that they played football with all in high school, so there's going to be some turmoil out there, and I think the coach noise, that's more for us, man. That's more for media. That's for the fans. I don't think it's going to affect those locker rooms.
Right.
To negate some of the home field advantage. Maybe a lot of people don't want to go sit in the rain in 40-degree weather.
That might. I hadn't really thought about it. It might. There's a point to where noise is noise, and if your communication's sharp, it doesn't always matter who's making the noise. I mean, once you can communicate in it, I mean, noise in and of itself is fun and exciting, and that's a good, because just a gloomy, quiet sort of. That's so funny. I remember playing at Stanford. That was like playing in a practice gym sometimes, I mean, some guy would make a bad play. I'd just yell across the field. I just scream at it. The guy at Stanford sideline, he knew what I was saying. He knew what I thought about the receiver's route, You'd even see the Stanford coaching, they go, of course, they're doing the same thing, But, you like a little noise, a little juice, a little action. If you're at home, they tend to yell when you want them to rather than when you don't, though.
On Thanksgiving last year, what's it like, playing on Thanksgiving Day?
Yeah, it's kind of like bowls. I mean, you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, really. I mean, you talk about Thanksgiving. A lot of people talk about Thanksgiving. They think that everybody's leaving practice and the game and racing to eat turkey. Which really isn't the case. I think that probably our team and my family, for example, and probably our team, Thanksgiving is Friday. Thanksgiving's Friday. You wrap up the game. Sometime Friday afternoon. Thanksgiving. Some may even push it to Saturday. I don't know, but but it's not Thursday and it's not Wednesday. It's not like, we got to squeeze it in before the game. No, I mean, some operate that way. Of course, some people bring Christmas trees and presents to bowl games. We don't do that either. The best is bowl games, especially, if you family not used to going to bowl games or whatever, they go, well, we just can't go because, Christmas is that day and we've been planning all year. Too bad they're not going to move the bowl game. Bowl game's going to be this day, and then, maybe next year we could plan if they have it a different day. Well, they might have it a different day, but you're not going to know till like 2 weeks before, And plus we have to open the presents on this day or whatever. No. Bowl game. We would have set a special Santa day. Santa's coming, figure out the bowl. Maybe, you know, the bowl, it didn't matter if it was like the 16th or the bowl's the, you know, January 3rd. Santa's coming this day, which was strategically 3 days before you leave to the bowl. And then they hammer through all their, you know, their presents and their paper and the stuff. And then they one time my son's friend comes over, and there's all these what's going on? My son says, "Oh, Santa came early because we got a bowl game, and you know we told him we couldn't do it, and so he came here early." And kids go, "Santa didn't come to my house today," you know, and so then you let the newness wear off the presents. You go to the bowl game because there's a point where they all like going to bowl games because you know if you're a kid, there's nothing more fun than running down the halls of a hotel screaming and doing cannonballs in a hot tub in the middle of the night, you know. So I mean, that's pretty hard to resist too. So then they get to a point where they'll just reconcile moving the day, although not as dramatic. Thanksgiving's a little like that too.
Time coaching against Lane Kiffin, just kind of what have you?
Well, it's probably the 5th or 6th, but go ahead.
Yeah, here at State. What kind of do you think of him as a coach, and just interactions maybe in the off season at meetings and things like that?
Pretty hilarious guy. No, I've always enjoyed. I've known him a long time. I've known him since he was I'm trying to think. I first met him, I think, when he was because I knew Monty. Let's see, I knew Monty. I met Lane through Monty, who I think was a GA for Pete Carroll at the time. And then, you know, just a good, sharp coach, a good football family, dedicated, you know, just focused on the game. And, you know, hilarious guy, fun at meetings. You know, you go to these meetings, I mean, I know you guys may think they're really exciting and you're really missing out on something. And if you can get the legislation across where you can go to a lot of them instead of me, I'd be happy to trade places with you. Not really trade places, but more like you go and I don't. and I think that, you know, he kind of brightens and freshens it up a little bit. Yeah, he fun to hang out with at the meetings.
When it comes to
Well, Shay, we got a big matchup here on Friday as well, Arkansas at Missouri. Before we talk about the matchup, I just thought this was a terrific message from Eli Drinkwitz. Asked about the transfer portal and, you know, everybody, he's not calling out the players. He says, myself included, you know, we're looking to instant gratification. We're looking to skip adversity, some entitlement there. And, you know, just kind of like a blanket statement here. But I thought this was kind of some powerful comments here.
Yeah, it's going to be a madhouse. I mean, I think if the FCS portal today is opened up and it's completely crazy, and I don't think there's any reason that's going to be any different, be careful what you wish for. So I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to try to be measured with some of the things I say, just because I think this stuff always gets to be put back on you and all that stuff. But, you know, I think back to the question talked about growth. And very rarely is growth just like this. And very rarely in life, whether it's the story of bamboo, who the bamboo grows very little for 6 years and then 6 weeks will sprout 6 feet. Whether you're talking about my father-in-law who's a farmer and you don't plant seed and it grows the next day. You got to go through a spring, you got to go through rain, you got to go through mud, you got to go through heat, and then something great comes and bursts through the ground for that. I think we're such a instant gratification era, including myself. I'm not putting this on anybody. It's the entire world we live in, that we're trying to skip the step of adversity and growth. And you're never going to be able to skip that in life. You're always going to have to face it, whether that's in your marriage, whether that's in your job, whether that's raising kids. And I know what's happened. We want to, as parents, as older people, we want to help the next generation not have to face some of the hardships that we faced. But man, the greatest generation in the world is the greatest generation because they faced the Great Depression, they faced the World War II. You know, they figured it out. And I just worry about there's going to be players who leave our program, and I love them dearly. And you know, it's maybe they're not excited about their role, or they're frustrated because they don't feel like they're being utilized the right way. And sometimes you just got to keep growing, you know, and you know, sometimes the grass isn't always greener on the other side, and sometimes you're just trading one set of problems for another. So,
all right, Shane. So, hey, man, it's kind of hard to. I think he makes a great point here. I mean, it certainly seems like, and not just football, but maybe just life in general. You know, a lot of people looking to skip steps and get to the mountaintop as quickly as possible, not enjoy the journey, not face adversity, and maybe that's why we got. You know, it's not just college football, but specifically that's what we're talking about here. So many guys jumping into the portal, and we're going to see it. I mean, a lot of first and second year players, I have to imagine, are going to be jumping in the portal because they're not all SEC selections right out the gate. You know what?
Yeah, no, you can tell. He said this story a few times. It was a little too queued up, man, to go from bamboo and farming and stuff. Oh no, I've been in the locker room here in this one. So, no, I think he makes some great points and some things that I think we lose track of. You know, because older generations had it tougher, man. I mean, sit down with your mama and papa and listen to how they grew up, and they'll, you know, forget the whole walking to school uphill both ways. But sometimes it's, you know, kids weren't given a lot of things growing up, and I'm not saying that everybody's different these days. I just think that, you know, it is a instinct. Man, I know it. My kids are. I do my best, but I kind of helicopter parent them, and sometimes I think that's going to hinder them once I let them out in the wild, you know. So I see where he's coming from as a dad.
Yeah.
But it is a little bit tougher because, you know, a lot of promises get made during these transitions. You know, there's a kid, maybe he's not getting some playing time. You know, what's to keep someone from, hey, come down here, man, you'll start. We got they're cranking up the NIL, you'll make some money while you're here. It's all these empty promises, and there's no repercussion for that. If you transfer and you find out that this guy's full of shit, then you just left what you originally committed to. And so I can't imagine how tough and frustrating coaching is these days, because you've got so many moving pieces. But it's also tough for the kids because they're also being promised things that just can't happen, can't be fulfilled.
Right. Well, but now moving forward to the actual game here, Shane, I mean, this is an underrated rivalry. That's not a rivalry, apparently, but, I mean, we go back and forth. So many great battles between these two. It was really heating up with Barry Odom was head coach at Missouri, and then he jumped ship to Arkansas. That just added a little fuel to the fire. Assistant coaches have jumped to one another. Players jumped back and forth. Missouri does a really good job of recruiting the state of Arkansas for whatever reason. I mean, there's so many ties in this matchup, and now we've got one of the better defenses in the SEC at Missouri, one of the better offenses in Arkansas, going head-to-head, strength on strength, weakness on weakness kind of in this matchup too.
Yeah.
When we're talking Arkansas defense versus, although they have kind of turned the corner, and Missouri's offense, which also has turned a corner a little bit here. But, man, I can't wait to watch this ball game. And honestly, Shane, I could see either team winning it. How about you?
Well, Morristown Honda, man, this was one of them. You know what I'm saying? I really did have a tough time picking who was going to win this game, and I'm still not 100% sold right now. I'm glad I get another night to think about it. But, it's funny. You remember down there in the SEC Media Days when we sat down with Coach Eli, that's one of the things we discussed was this rivalry or lack thereof, buddy. But it was passionate. He was very passionate when he was talking about the Razorbacks, and he was careful what he said because he didn't want it to come back around because he does have a lot of ties down there. So I think this is becoming one of the best games to watch during rivalry week. And whether Arkansas wants to admit that it's a rivalry, when you took those assistant coaches down there out of the state of Missouri, it became one instantly. So that's what I love about this game. It's deep. It's invested, and there's a lot of players on each side that are well familiar with these two schools. So I can't wait to watch it, man.
The Battle Line Trophy versus Arkansas, and we need a big home field advantage. And our student section has been that for us. And I know they're on Thanksgiving break, but don't eat too much turkey. Get over the tryptophan. Get here for Friday's game, and let's make sure that our student section is rocking, that we're loud on third downs, and we give our team a huge advantage with the environment that we play in. Offensively, their quarterback is the engine that makes them go. Obviously, this will be the third time that we've played against him. Golly, I hope he's graduating or going pro or something. Holy cow, he's an unbelievable player to really throw the football extremely well. He's a physical runner, but I think the thing that separates him is his ability to read defenses and then, even when protection breaks down, make the first defender miss, whether they're on him or not, and then extend plays. The play he made against BYU before half that led to a touchdown drive is as special a play as you can make as a quarterback. Yeah, the only thing we're focused on is it's a rivalry game and it's trophy week, and that's it. None of the other stuff matters. The most important thing to us is that they have a trophy and we want it, and the only way to get it is to play our best game and to prepare the way that we know how to prepare and to play with unbelievable effort. And that's the focus, and that's why we did senior week last week. This week is all about rivalry week, Arkansas, and the Battle Line Trophy, and whatever happens after that happens. We're just focused on trying to win that trophy.
And let me ask you this, though, Shane. I mean, if one side does not even consider it a rivalry and the other does that favor Missouri on the field at all, do you think?
No, I don't. And I don't think so. I don't know, Mike. That's a good question because I think about teams that overlook opponents sometimes.
Right.
Example, Tennessee. It's like, we don't want to mention that we don't like them. We're going to come in there, we're going to beat them and show everybody why this shouldn't be a rivalry. Mm-hmm. But sometimes that arrogance, buddy, will come back and bite you tenfold. So I think that's the biggest concern. The biggest concern I have with this rivalry is the fact that Arkansas has made a bowl game and Missouri hasn't. Mm-hmm. It means more to them for this win. The way that they've been playing, the way they're finishing out their season here, I just think that it means more to Missouri than it does Arkansas. Now, I'm saying that as an outsider, as a fan. You may poll one of the kids in the audience and they say, "Oh no, this is the game I've had circled because I didn't get a scholarship offer from." Because these schools are really close to each other, and right. So I think maybe part of that, but no, this is. I think Missouri's getting Arkansas at the right time, and Arkansas coming off that huge win. Yeah, who knows? Maybe a little arrogance may come back and bite them.
And one final note I have on this game, Shane, it was pretty interesting just the other day. Matt Zenitz of On3 Sports, he reported that Drake has given up offensive play calling duties the last 2 weeks, starting with that Tennessee game, and that's kind of where we...
Who's your source? Who's your source, Mike? Oh, wait, you just said it.
So, it's interesting because, hey, I like this. I think this is something that Missouri's needed. Being a head coach, being a play caller, it's just so difficult unless you're, when your unit's struggling. A lot of these coaches, I'm looking at you, Jimbo, say, I ain't the problem. The play calling's not the problem. It's everything else. You have to be willing to adapt. And even doing it during the middle of the season, can be a great thing. I think it's a good sign for Missouri. Their offense has picked up a little bit here. So, we may look at Missouri as a average to poor offense at times, but maybe they're turning the corner too, and this could be, this could be a shootout style game. Would not surprise me at all.
I really do think the best coaches these days are just great managers. And, long time it's always been, okay, yes, I'm taking care of this side of the ball. I've got some of these guys in to take that side, and it feels like football's just, think about what we're talking about, the transfer portal and the recruiting, the NILs and stuff. It's just so much stuff to do and deal with. You cannot wear all those hats. So sometimes you got to just be a good manager. And I think that's a little bit of what Drink's doing, is just kind of loosening those reins, allowing the people that he put his confidence in. And if one's not working, don't be afraid to hurt some feelings. And that's what I like, is because, we nothing against South Carolina, because Satterfield, he proved me wrong this week, but that was one of the arguments was, this is his buddy, and maybe that's why he's not kind of loosening it up or changing anything. And sometimes that ship, if it can sink, and if you're with it, you're going down with it as well. So right. I say all that to say that sometimes it hurts to make those decisions, but if it ain't working, then fix it. And that's exactly what I feel like Missouri's doing here lately.
Missouri, our rival, very excited to go to Columbia. We haven't beat them there ever since we've been in the SEC. So that would, obviously there's challenges there. They're playing extremely well. Very good defensive football team. They're going to make you throw the football. They're going to outnumber you in the box and make you throw the football. Their front four, really their entire defense, they've got really good corners, so they're able to play man and one high safety. Very aggressive, very physical. They've done a really good job. Defensively is
I got a bunch of questions. The 2014 game you were at, and you guys kind of had the lead in it, kind of at the end they came back. 2016 was even worse when you weren't there. Huge lead. Barry goes on 4th and 7, punt, fake punt on 4th and 7. So what is it about maybe being up there, not being able to hold leads, that has maybe affected you guys?
I remember the 14 game because Brandon Allen was, I don't know, he was hurt now going into the game. Matter of fact, going into the game, we didn't know if he'd play, and he was sore, taking center quarterback exchange. He just toughed it out, so he was hurt. I remember that. I think we were up maybe 14 at half or something like that, and they came back. And actually, they won the West that year, if I'm not mistaken. In 16, I had my own problems over there at Georgia, and then I don't know what happened. 18, when we went up there the last time, we had a lead on them as well. And then they came back, and then we went for 2 and took the lead, and obviously they had a nice drive there at the end. Rivalry games should be close games. I think we're 2 pretty evenly matched teams. Coach Drinkwitz does a great job. I don't know what it is, to be honest with you. Each year is a little bit different. It seems like the results have been the same up there, but I think our kids will be ready, and I know I'm sure Missouri will be because of bowl eligibility.
How about this one, Shay? Tennessee on the road at Vanderbilt. What's your level of concern that Tennessee no-shows once again? Red hot Vanderbilt. They got to be, their confidence has got to be high. We already hit on it. They're playing for their bowl lives. Tricky game, or one that Tennessee should win easily? What's your thoughts?
Well, part of me, I've been hurt, Mike, so I don't want to overlook anybody these days.
Right.
But I do think what happened to Tennessee on that national stage was important for this team to grow up, man, because we got some youth here as well. And we're going to have a new quarterback that loves to throw the ball. Mm-hmm. You hear Coach here in a minute talking about getting out there fast and aggressive. I think that's good if you're a Tennessee fan. I think it's bad if you're a Vanderbilt fan. But Vandy, the way that they've been putting things together here the last couple of weeks, the reason that they're on a 2-game winning streak is because teams overlook them. Kentucky overlooked them. Florida overlooked them. And you could say, oh, no, we didn't overlook anybody. No, you did. And it cost you. You saw a sloppy Florida team that almost came back to win, but they didn't win because they started out so damn sloppy. Same thing with Kentucky. So Vanderbilt will be ready to play, and they'll be ready to create havoc and move the chains and keep doing what they're doing. And if Tennessee does what they did last week with South Carolina and overlooks yet another SEC opponent, whether you think they're a true opponent or not, man, it doesn't matter. Any given Saturday, you can get your ass beat. So I think this one is shaping up better for Tennessee, and I'm just basing that off what I've been hearing the leaders say.
Right. Well, what's your confidence in Joe Milton, Shane, after, he won the job initially under Heupel, but I know he got banged up, but he was not playing well at all, really, as the starter. He looks improved this season, but again, that's a lot of junk time. It's a lot of lower competition. If it's same old Joe, he's overthrowing wide open guys. He's making mistakes here or there. We all see him. He's a massive, massive human, but at times it seems like he's shies away a little bit from contact, and they don't have another quarterback, another scholarship, healthy quarterback on this roster. What's your level of confidence in Joe Milton coming out here and executing this offense?
Well, we've all been talking about Bazooka Joe, as they like to say, the man with the golden arm. You're going to see some long balls, Mike. You're going to see. I mean, he is built like if you're building a football quarterback.
Yeah.
This is exactly what he looks like right here. And he's physical. He's not afraid to run. We're going to see a lot of that. My concern, Mike, though, is like you said, coming into junk time's one thing. Winning a game by yourself is another. And I don't mean I'm not taking away from the receivers and running backs, and obviously this is a team effort, but sometimes you saw it last year with the overthrows, sometimes even the short passes coming out 100 miles an hour. There was a lack of touch. He was keyed up, as we like to say.
Yeah.
And sometimes that hurts you in this type of offense if you're 3 and out. I don't care who you are. If you go 3 and out and your defense is right back on the field, which has been a disaster, an absolute train wreck here the last 3 weeks, that's my biggest concern. So is sustained drive. I love Hooker. I love everything that he's done for Tennessee football, but he just had a magical way to keep drives alive. He had a magical way to get that first down, which they always talk about.
Yeah.
Can Milton do that? So obviously I'm a little concerned because he's not a starter. He's not our starter. Mm-hmm. He is now because of situation, but then there's a part of me that can't wait to see him try to stretch the field because, I mean, as long as Squirrel White and Hyatt and anybody else that wants to go deep can, Milton could find a way to get it to you. So I'm excited because I think this is going to present a little bit more of Heupel's style and opening up, getting vertical, which is something we've kind of not been able to do last 2 or 3 weeks. So we got to see it when he came in last game. So just launch it up to Squirrel and see what happens. So I'm kind of excited about that part.
Well,
and plus, again, I'm one of those guys overlooking Vanderbilt a little bit and thinking, hey, this is a team we can't afford to try new things, or we can't afford to be a little bit more of a gambler. So because hopefully we can rebound. But then again, maybe I'm whatever. Me.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, well, I think he's a lot more comfortable in what we're doing. And so in the run game and in just his decision-making process, eyes, all of it, he's a lot further ahead than where we saw him at the beginning of last season. And, the guys around him have changed too. And, I anticipate him playing at a really high level.
You've spoken this year about this team's ability to not flinch, and part of that is Hendon's leadership. I wonder, where is the leadership? Where do you feel like the leadership of this team is in those situations without Hendon out there? And then as a coach, what are you looking for this week to make sure that there's no carryover from Saturday night, and that they do flush it? What do you need to see?
Yeah, you got to cut it clean, and you got to flush it. That shows in your energy in the building. It shows in your approach in the meeting room. It shows with the energy and competitiveness that you have out on the practice field. Looking back a week ago, I told the team today too, I liked a lot of what we did during the course of the week, and mindset and approach at the end of the week is going to be important in this one too. Obviously, Thanksgiving creates something unique this week. The leadership portion of it, Hendon is a strong leader. There's absolutely no doubt. He'll be in the building here at the beginning part of the week too. I think that's important. His teammates see him and feel him too. But we got a lot of strong leadership. It's not just one guy from within our locker room, and we got a bunch of prideful guys. That's why we've continued to improve as a program over the 2 years since I've been here. This one should be and will be important to our guys. Go finish. There's a lot that we're playing for. In life and in this game, you got to finish strong, and we're obviously at the tail end of our regular season. It's important to finish it the right way.
Bleeding into the next game, still kind of Tennessee related, South Carolina at Clemson. But before we talk about the matchup, Shane, old Dabo running his mouth, called out them Vols. Let's kick it over to him.
And they're like, okay, we beat South Carolina, we beat Vandy. They're in the playoffs. They're flipping burgers at the house, having a cold drink, watching the championship weekend. What are we? Are we 3 or 4? Where are we going? Are we in Arizona? Are we in Atlanta? And next thing you know, you forget you got to go play. And but man, I think you just got to give all the credit to South Carolina. I think they just flat out kicked their butt. They showed up. They executed incredibly well. And man, Rattler, he was hot. And those receivers were hot, and that comes Zero and how they're using him.
And God, I hate Dabo. I do.
And hey, I don't know if you've looked this far ahead, Shane, and we can assume nothing in college football. But if Tennessee beats Vanderbilt, if Clemson does not make the college football playoff, which seems likely, Tennessee is very likely going to play Clemson in the Orange Bowl. So these words may come back to haunt them. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah, come on down. I'd love to play Clemson this year. I really would. And I would love nothing more than South Carolina just to beat the shit out of these guys. Just continue. We helped you unlock the recipe last week. Go out there and make another wonderful meal. That's my Thanksgiving. If you want to like say, I'm sorry, Shane, that we destroyed your hopes and dreams of making a college football playoffs, but I am going to return a favor by going over here to Clemson and just beating the brakes off Dabo. I'm all for it. All right. I'm a Rattler fan this week, Mike. So this is sound bites that stick around. He is not the next Saban. He's not Kirby Smart. I think he's a one-hit wonder, man. And they had their run, and it's starting to come back to them. And right. Nothing could help the SEC more than Clemson struggling. And you come out here and you talk the game, man. This ain't Notre Dame, buddy. This is a team that just beat the shit out of a top 5 SEC opponent.
Right.
So yeah, talk all the trash you want, Dabo.
Well, and apparently, Shane, leading up to that Tennessee game, I can't remember where I heard this, but apparently Shane Beamer went to Spencer Rattler and said, hey, man, I could have got any quarterback in the portal to come in here and dink and dunk like we've been doing. You have got to let it loose. You have got to force the ball down the field. And they did that against Tennessee. No, I don't want to give you any nightmare flashbacks, but if they can continue that, if that message resonates for another week, and Spencer Rattler lives up to all this hype and potential that we gave him all off season, do you got confidence that he can do that 2 weeks in a row, this time on the road against Clemson? They are overrated, but they do got the strongest part of their program is that defense.
Yeah.
You got confidence that he can continue, maybe not throw 6 touchdowns again, but they're going to need at least 3, maybe 4 out of him to pull this upset. Do you think he can get it done?
I do, but Mike, there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance, and there was a part of me during that game as he's counting the touchdowns on the sideline, and you listening to the post game, and it was a big win for that program.
Yeah.
But you cannot bring that type of swagger into another game ill prepared. You should take a lesson. Tennessee is doing exactly what you're thinking right now. Hey, if we just keep doing what we always do, we can go over here, we'll smoke these guys, and then we'll close out with another magical season. You can't. You have got to put in extra time in film and study. You've got to put in extra time with routes. These receivers got to get on the jugs. It's like everybody's got to work double time because you can't surprise Clemson. Clemson's got the tapes now. They can study your new downfield passing, and they're going to have things. I mean, that was no dummy. They're going to have a defensive scheme up for you guys, and they're going to find the weaknesses that Tennessee missed last week. So that's the key, man. Don't get caught looking in the rearview mirror. Double down on practice. Double down on preparation for this game because you're going to get the best Clemson football you've seen or that you've seen on tape all season long. And I just want him to keep the confidence but don't have the arrogance.
Now, how about the Iron Bowl, Shane? We haven't hit on that yet. Auburn going on the road to Alabama. So much juice there with Coach Cadillac on the plains going on the road. Massive underdog, but again, where's the motivation for the Crimson Tide, Shane? This could be the final college game for Bryce Young. Could be the final college game for Will Anderson. We'll see if they suit up in the bowl game, but I don't know, Shane. I'm sitting here spitballing. I mean, these players desperately seem to want to keep Cadillac. I realize it's not up to them who the next coach is, but if he wins, if he beats old Dick, Shade, I mean, how do you turn around and say, all right, thanks for everything you did, Cadillac. Thanks for saving the season. Thanks for postseason. Now go on out of here. You know what I mean? So, man, I don't know. I feel like Auburn is going to play their parts out. I realize it's an uphill battle, but I think they're going to give Alabama a game. What do you think?
Well, I think it's going to be a tough game. It's a tough battle to beat Alabama. I mean, it's one thing to play Mississippi State. It's one to beat Texas A&M, but it's something different when you're talking about Nick Saban and that Crimson Tide. I don't think they're overlooking this opponent. This is a deep-rooted rivalry, probably the most hated rivalry in the world, if you ask me, Mike. I mean, some truly families getting divided type stuff down there in Alabama. So there's no overlooking the Iron Bowl, and you could just turn on the tape from last year, Mike. This is a game that shouldn't have been a game. Then it became a game, and you barely escaped with one there. So I think that's all the motivation you need. Also, you could turn on the tape with the Tennessee, South Carolina. You could turn on the tape with the Michigan game last week. Plug and play any top 10 team. There was a lot of folks that struggled because they were ill prepared or they made too many mistakes. So I don't think that's the case here with Alabama, but who knows, man? Who knows? That's the beautiful thing about this rivalry. You got to throw out all the records. Doesn't matter who's coaching. Doesn't matter anything. It's going to come down probably to a couple mistakes and maybe even a last possession. So I'm here for it, buddy. And I'd love nothing more than to see Cadillac get a victory down there.
Shane, you asked me earlier if I had $100.
Yeah.
Which way would I bet it? All this Kiffin to Auburn talk kind of reminds me of Lincoln Riley this time last year. All the LSU talk.
Yeah.
And then what happened, Shane? He did a 180 and went to Southern Cal. What if Alabama loses the Iron Bowl, Nick Saban retires, and in comes Lay Trade to Tuscaloosa? If I give you $100, what's the likelihood that happens? What?
$1. $1. That ain't happening. I tell you, this Nick Saban thing, I think it's a fluke. And what surprises me most about Nick Saban's future is Bryce coming out. I don't know if you caught it earlier this week. They were asking him about his plans on going to the NFL, and there was some serious pause going there. And I'm not saying that Bryce is going to forgo the draft and come back to Alabama, but man, it's still in the cards. They can't rule it out. And
right.
And maybe this revenge tour didn't go exactly as planned, but who's to say that Nick ain't got one more in him?
Right.
And what better than to bring Bryce back? So that's the thing I'm most curious about down in Tuscaloosa is the future of that program, and not Nick Saban. Nick Saban's going to be around till Nick Saban wants to hang it up. I think we'll see it coming too. I think it'll be after a college football playoff or something like that. He ain't going to go out not making an SEC championship or a college football playoff run. I can tell you that.
Well, that is one thing about NIL that I don't think gets discussed enough, Shane. I mean, I'm not saying Bryce is coming back. I didn't catch that, but heck, maybe he could. And we live in an era now, Shane, where if a player of that caliber makes that decision, I realize how much money you can make in the NFL, but at the same time, someone at Alabama could say, here's $10 million check. You know what I mean? So that is an aspect of NIL that is, I don't think gets enough attention. That is going to happen. It's going to happen at some point, and who knows? It could happen in a couple weeks here with Bryce Young.
Yeah, wouldn't that be something? Talk about a revenge tour.
Yeah,
Nick and Bryce at it one more year. Anybody wants to transfer in Alabama is more than welcome. He goes out with a bang, just like the Globetrotters out here.
Now, final SEC rivalry we got here, Shane. LSU at A&M. What is the path to victory for Jimbo Fisher and company in College Station? Big underdog against the SEC West champions here. Is there any path, you think, to A&M pulling this upset?
No huddle offense, Mike. I want to see just something that's not been seen at all. You know what I'm saying? Just totally outside the box. And I'm not saying he's going to relinquish any duties here or anything like that. But you may have one more shot, man. Seriously, Jimbo. They can find ways, Mike. And I was thinking about this. He owes them $80 million, right? Mm-hmm. You know, there's things that they could do, and it wouldn't surprise me if they say, hey, man, we're going to fight this in court. You know, we're going to show cause and blah, blah, blah. They're digging up all the dirt, and they're saying, hey, we're going to put you on a 12-year payment plan, and boom, you're out. Now, all of a sudden, they got money. You know what I'm saying? It wouldn't – I keep thinking all these stupid scenarios that probably never happen, but that's what's going on in my head, Mike. And Jimbo has, in my mind, one more opportunity to keep this job. And I'm not saying he's getting fired and all the money. I get all that. But to go out with a win against the SEC West opponent, that is absolutely huge. And you got to get outside the box, get outside your brain for a second, because everything you've done up to this point, including last week with a shitty team, you know, it will not work against Kelly and LSU. It will not. So that's what you want to ask me, if there's a shot. Absolutely, there's a shot, Mike. But it's going to require Jimbo doing something he's not done the last 11 weeks. And I'm not sure that we're going to be able to see it.
Now, did you see these comments, Shay, from Anthony Richardson? He basically called a shot and says, hey, when we beat Florida State, the momentum in this program is going to swing right back. I love that confidence from my star quarterback going into a rivalry matchup, but that could be a double-edged sword, because I'm sure they see that down in Tallahassee. What are the odds you think Florida bounces back and beats Florida State on the road?
I think there's a shot here, Mike. You know, I'm not convinced that Florida State's schedule is all that tough. I mean, the only credit we give is the Miami game, maybe, and we compare it to a Texas A&M matchup, which we just discussed is apparently not that good. So I don't know, man. This game, Florida wasn't supposed to win last year, and they did.
Yeah.
Right? You know, so I think that's going to be the same narrative going into this game. And if I put my chips on the better quarterback, I think Florida has it. If I put my chips on the best running backs, I think Florida has it. You know, the defense is a little sus, a little, you know, needs a little bit convincing there. But, you know, this isn't a team that they're going to overlook like they did Vanderbilt. This game will not be played at noon, will it? This won't be played in – what time is this game?
This is actually on Friday. I think it's like 4 o'clock, something like that.
Think about that, Mike. The whole world is watching you, and I think that's the way Billy needs to kind of tee this thing up. That hey, this is one more shot, boys. To let there's nothing else on. Nobody's watching anything else but us right now, and take advantage of that. Take advantage of that camera time. Make this game bigger than it really is. And I think there's a real shot that we see a big upset. This feels like that Utah, man. Because if you're looking outside media, they're putting no shot for Florida here, and it wouldn't surprise me in game day that it's just a clean sweep of Florida State fans, and I don't think that's the case here, Mike. I think this is a perfect opportunity, especially with my leader knowing how big this game is, coming out here making the statement like this. This is a battle cry, and Florida needs to capitalize on it.
Now, we kind of already hit on Louisville, Kentucky, but man, how much is it a little bit of a blessing that while things have not gone as desired there in Lexington, at least losing to Vanderbilt, losing to Georgia, it would have been very easy to just kind of mail it in. But man, you got your in-state hated rival coming in here. If you can't get up for this one, you just can't get up for it for a football game. That should serve Kentucky well going into this matchup, don't you think?
Yeah. These guys hate each other. I mean, they absolutely hate each other, and right now it's just bragging rights because Kentucky has owned them, and that's all fun and games until you don't own them anymore. And then they drag you in the mud for 12 months until you get another opportunity to shut them up. So, yeah, there's a lot of noise going on up there in Kentucky, and this game is going to be hostile. It's going to be – I love right before. Don't be surprised if we don't see some fights on the sideline. There'll be a lot of shit talking, and who knows? I don't know what Will Levis's future is, but this may be the last time we see him. I think he wants to go out with a bang. So this should be a hell of a matchup.
Now, one final one, Shane. I don't know if I'm sure you've seen this before, but I think it was Georgia Tech and Citadel like in 200 years ago, and the final score was like 222-0. That's what could be happening again. Georgia Tech at Georgia, but it's going to be flipped the other way because them Bulldogs can kind of just pick their own score in this one. Georgia Tech's already fired their coach. Georgia's the only hope, and I'm not even saying hope, but man, looking ahead to the SEC title game, looking ahead to the playoff, that's the only way. This is a 50-point margin of victory, don't you think?
Oh, Mike, this is a race to 35, and then Kirby's sitting on it with the backups. That's what's happening here. Try to stay healthy. Keep all my tight ends healthy. Keep my quarterback healthy, and get out of there. No more defense injuries. We want to just because with your backups, Kirby could put together a team of second string, and they would beat Georgia Tech. So there is absolutely no pressure here. Just do your thing. Race to 35 and then sit on it.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, buddy, we went a little long here hitting on all the rivalry matchups we got this weekend. We'll make our picks on that next episode. You got anything else before we hop off the line?
No, man. I've just my favorite week, Mike. We got Thanksgiving. We got all the good food, man. I've been thinking about it. I've been trying to I'm gearing up for a diet after this thing, and I'm like, man, I gotta go out.
Story of your
life.
I
know, right? I'm always, it's like Tennessee. We'll get them next year, That's what I do every New Year's. Well, last year didn't work out, but no, brother, I'm joking. This is my favorite time. Got family in. It was great seeing you this week, and now we get to watch a little college football. And I said it earlier in the show. This is also a tough time of year because it's at the end of it. So, it may be Florida State, and you may not care about either one of those teams. But I guarantee you're going to be tuned in because deep down inside, we ain't got too many of these games left. So I'm just pumped up. I love talking about it, and I look forward to talking to you tomorrow with our picks.
Absolutely. Well,
zero confidence in these picks. Rivalry, I don't even want to lock it because I don't want to put any evil on anybody. So I I'll put it on Tennessee. I haven't done it all year, so my lock tomorrow will be on Tennessee. So I've already screwed them up by not doing my Bama walks, and the football gods bit me. So I apologize for that. So again, Mike. Anyway, all
right. That's a perfect place to
Yeah.
cut Shane's latest rant off. But I appreciate you as always. Appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in. Safe travels this Thanksgiving weekend. We'll catch you on the next one.
right. See you guys. Go Vols.